Chapter 1 The Fadail of Ramadan, Hadith 1, Rasulullah's talk on the last day of Shaban, the 8th month. And this is a long narration, but we have virtually all English after this. So, An Salamana Qala Qatabana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam fil qira'ati Yaman min Sha'abana faqala Ya ayyuhal nasa qad a'zallamakum shahrun azim mubarakun shahrun fiha laylatan khayrun min alfa shahrun ja'alallahu siyamahu faridatan wa qiyama laylaha ta'tawu an man taqaraba fiha khaslatan khana kaman ada faridatan fi ma sawahu wa man ada faridatan fiha kana kaman ada sab'ina faridatan fima sawahu wa huwa shahru sabra wa sabru thawabuhu jannatu shahru luwasate wa shahrun yuzadu fi rizqil mu'minin rizqil mu'min fiha man fatara fiha sahtiman kana magfiratan la dhunubihi wa itqa raqabatihi min nari wa kana lahu mithlu ajrihi min ghayri an yunqasa min ajrihi shay'un qalu ya Rasulallah laysa kulluna yajidu ma yufataru sa'ima faqala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam yu'atillahu hadha thawaba man fatara sathima ala tamratin aw sha'bate ma'i aw mudqata labanan wa huwa shahrun awaluhu rahmatan wa awsatuhu maghfiratan wa akhiruhu itqun minan nari man fafafa an tamlukihi fiha ghafarallahu lahu wa ataqahu minan nari wastakthiru fiha min arba'i khaslatain turduna bihimma rabbakum wa khaslatain la gana'a bikum anhumma fa amal khaslatane latane turduna bihimma rabbakum fashahadatu an la ilaha illallahu la tagfirunahu wa amal khaslatane latane langena abikum anhumma batas alunallaha al jannata wa tu awiduna behi minannare wa man saqasa thimman saqahulahu min hawdi sharbatan la yazma hatta yadkhulal jannata. Rawahu sahiha Kabir. Bayhaqi narrated this. And I don't notice in my quick view over any Nasai, Tirmidhi. Okay, I spoke too soon. Not Tabrani this time. Bayhaqi, Tirmidhi, Nasai. Okay. Salman reports, on the last day of... I forget what Shaban means, but it's the 8th month. The messenger of God, divine contact upon him and wholeness, addressed us and said, O people, there comes upon you now a great month, a most blessed month, in which lies a night better than 1,000 months. It is a month in which Allah has made compulsory that fasting should be observed by day, and He has made the extended, or the with pauses by night, a way, so voluntary prayer. They recite the whole, one recites the whole Quran in the month is the general goal. Whosoever tries drawing nearer to Allah by performing non-obligatory deeds in this month, for him shall be reward as if he had performed an obligatory observance in any other time of the year. And whosoever performs an obligation for him, the reward of 70 obligatories in any other time of the year. It is indeed the month of patience, and the reward for true patience is paradise. It is the month of kindness for one's fellow men. All humans. Remember the gender neutral thing. We're referring to everybody. It is the month wherein a true believer's sustenance is increased. Whosoever feeds a fasting person in order to break the fast at the sunset, for him shall be forgiveness of his sins and freedom from the fire of hell. And for him shall be the same reward as for him, without that person's reward being decreased in the least. Thereupon we said, O Apostle of God, contact of God upon him and peace, not all of us possess the means whereby we can provide enough for a fasting person to break his fast. The messenger of God replied, God grants the same reward to him who gives a fasting person a single date or drink of water or a sip of milk to break the fast. This is a month, the first part of which brings God's mercy, the middle of which brings his forgiveness, and the last part of which brings freedom from the fire of hell. Whosoever lessens the burden of his servants in this month, God will forgive him and free him from the fire of hell. And in this month 4 things you should try to perform in great number, 2 of which shall be to please God, while the other 2 shall be those without which you cannot manage. Those which shall be to please your God are that you should in great quantity recite the statement of the completeness, there is no God except God, make much begging God's forgiveness. And for those, beg is not the word, but make much asking for forgiveness. And as for those too without which you cannot manage, you should beg God for entry into the paradise and seek his protection from the fire of hell. And whosoever gave a person who fasted water to drink, God shall grant him drink from my fountain. Such a drink, or after, he shall never again feel thirsty until he enters paradise. Note, all of these points to which this saying draws attention have been further emphasized in numerous other hadith on the great virtues of Ramadan. Quite a number of important points are brought to our notice in this hadith. First, it should be noted that Rasulullah ﷺ delivered this sermon at the end of the month of Shaban, the obvious reason being that he intended to put into our minds the great importance of the forthcoming Ramadan, so that we on our side would remember and not even allow for a moment to go without giving it the true importance it deserves. After describing the virtues of this month, attention is specifically drawn to several important items. First, Laylatul Qadr, which is indeed a most valuable night. Thereafter, it is brought out in the above hadith that fasting during the day has been made obligatory by Allah, who also made the Taraweeh Salah during the night a sunnah to please Allah. From this hadith, it is noted that the command for Taraweeh first too comes from Allah himself, and the other ahadith from Rasulullah ﷺ are really to reinforce this. All the Imams are agreed on Taraweeh being a sunnah. Maulana Shah Abdul Haq al-Dihlawi wrote in his book Ma Thabata bil Sunnah that should a people of any town give up the Taraweeh prayer, the Muslim ruler should compel them to do so by force. Here, one point should be noted. Many are of the opinion that the one may merely listen to the full Quran being recited during the Taraweeh in 8 or 10 days in a certain masjid, whereby the virtue of the sunnah shall have been obtained. This is wrong because there are two distinct things. First, it is sunnah to hear the full Quran being recited in Taraweeh during Ramadan. Secondly, it is sunnah to perform Taraweeh, a salah, throughout Ramadan. Both these should be performed with due care. I've attended once this guy recited in like 45 minutes or something, 2.5 out of 30 parts of the Quran, and even following along, it was hard to even visually keep up. They should join into wherever they find opportunity. Another point is to bring our notice to the hadith that Rasulullah ﷺ informed us that any nafil, non-obligatory act in Ramadan is rewarded as much as fard, obligatory in normal times, whereas a fard in Ramadan carries a reward of 70 farad of other times. At this point, we should consider our ibadah as to much importance we attach to obligatory practices in Ramadan, and how much nafil we perform. As for care in carrying out fard, we find numerous people who, after having eaten suhar, food before dawn, go back to bed with the result that Fajr Salah is not performed. Many perform it, but not with jama'ah. This creates the impression that we give thanks to Allah for the food we've eaten at suhar by either not performing the most important fard or performing it without jama'ah, congregation. Rasulullah ﷺ said that there is no salah for those living near a masjid except in the mosque. For those who can attend, it's expected that they attend. In the book Mazahir-e-Haq, we find that when a person without any valid excuse performs salah without jama'ah, congregation, the fard is taken as performed, but the full reward of the salah is not received. Similarly, in numerous cases, the iftar, breaking the fast, the Maghrib salah, is missed, and many who do come to the mosque miss the takbirat al-tahrim at the beginning, or even miss it at the first rakat. Now, in general, that which I've noticed is those who leave to do things that aren't allowed in Islam and come back in, often breathing out their drugs, inflicting the people around them. Many people, because of the long Tarawih Salah, even perform Isha Salah before its proper time. That is a sad way we look after our Salah in Ramadan. In order to perform one fard, 3 are neglected. How often do we see even Zohar Salah being ignored because we are asleep in siesta, while Asr is missed because we are too busy in buying, selling, and cooking in preparation for iftar? If such is the case with the fara'id, then we can imagine how much less importance is given to the nafil observances. One finds that because of sleep, the time for nawafil soon after shuruq, after sunrise, and salat al-duha before noon go by unattended. Then look at salat al-awwabin just after maghrib. Here we find ourselves busy with iftar and frightened by the thought of tarawih after an hour. So this salah too is ignored. The voluntary 2 after the 3 of the evening. Further, we find that for salat al-tahajjud, the prayer after sleeping or lying down to rest, the time is the same as that for suhur, with the result that this too is neglected. One may make 1,000 excuses for not finding time for these nawafil, yet we see that there are many who do find the time to perform all these ibadah during these precious days. I personally observed my teacher, Maulana Khalil Ahmed, during many Ramadans. I don't know the plural for Ramadan at the moment. He used to recite 1¼ juz, part of the Quran, in Nafil Salah after Maghrib. Therefore, he used to spend about half an hour in eating and other necessities and in preparation for Tarawih. He used to stand in Tarawih for about 2½ hours in India, and for 3 hours while residing in Medina al-Munawwara. Therefore, he would sleep for 2 or 3 hours according to the season. Then again he used to recite the Quran in Tahajjud until half an hour before Fajr, when he ate his suhur. Is it suhur or well, there's not the dot. I should know that. From then until Fajr, the dawn prayer, he remained busy with reading Al-Quran or reciting wazifas. I don't know the plural of wazifa. With the break of dawn, he performed Fajr Salah, whereafter he remained in the meditative muraqabah until nawafil soon after shuruq. Having performed Ishraq prayers, he used to write a part of his famous commentary, Fadail al-Machud, in Arabic on the Sunan of Abu Dawood until midday. Then he normally attended to his letters and dictated replies. He then rested until Zohar prayers and read the Quran from Zohar to Asr, from Asr until Maghrib. Zohar is after the midday, Asr is the late afternoon, so like double shadow time or something equivalent, depending on your latitude, right? From Asr until Maghrib, he would be busy with tasbih and in conversation with those who visited him. When he had completed Fadail al-Machud, he used to be busy studying some religious works. This was his daily program throughout the year. In Ramadan, however, he used to spend a bit more time in his ibadah, making the rak'at longer. Other religious figures used to take the same care of Ramadan, and even more so that it is not easy to copy them. Sheikh al-Hind Maulana Mahmud al-Hassan Rahmatullah used to remain in Nafil Salah from after Taraweeh until Fajr, and would listen to the Quran recited by several Huffaz, one after the other. Maulana Shah Abd al-Rahim al-Raipuri remained busy with tilawah, recitation of the Quran, day and night throughout Ramadan. There was no time left for attending to correspondence or meeting visitors. Only his very special intimates were allowed to visit him after Taraweeh for such a short period. While he took a cup of tea, the reason for mentioning the manner in which these elders spent their Ramadan is not that we may just read them casually, but rather with the object that we may take courage to the best of our ability, endeavor to follow their noble examples. How wonderful it would be if those who are not pressed by worldly necessities would try their utmost to mend their religious life in this 1 month, after having wasted 11 months of the year. As for those who have to be in their offices and at work by 8, 9, or 10 in the morning, they should not find it difficult, at least in Ramadan, to spend the time from Fajr until their duty hour in recitation of the Quran. After all, for our other worldly needs, we do find time, in spite of the office hours. As for those engaged in farming, who normally are in no one's service, nothing should prevent them from reciting the Quran while at work in their farm. Then look at the businessmen, shopkeepers, and merchants. Nothing should prevent them in Ramadan from reciting the Quran during their business hours, or cutting short the trading time in order to make time for the recitation thereof. After all, there is a very great link between Ramadan and tilawah of the Quran. Almost all of Allah's scriptures were revealed in this month, and we find confirmation of this in the Bible and some other places. Similarly, in this month, the Quran was brought down from Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, the protected divine tablet, to the Sama al-Dunya, the lowest heavens or sky above the earth, from where it was revealed bit by bit to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam over a span of 23 years. The Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam was given his scriptures on the 1st or 3rd of this month, and Dawood alayhi salam received the Psalms on the 12th or 18th of this month. The Nabi Musa received the Torah on the 6th. Isa, the prophet Jesus alayhi salam, received the Injil on the 12th or 13th. From this, we note the close connection between the divine scriptures and the month of Ramadan. For this reason, as much tilawah of the Quran should be done as possible during this month. Such was the habit of our Masha'ik. Jibreel alayhi salam used to recite the whole Quran to our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the month of Ramadan. In some hadith, it is stated that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to recite and Jibreel used to listen. By combining these reports, the ulama have said that it is mustahab to read the Quran in such a manner that while one person recites, the others listen. Thereafter, one person recites while the others listen. So recite the Quran as much as possible. Whatever time remains thereafter should also not be wasted. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has drawn our attention to 4 other things and advised that we should practice them as much as possible. These are the recitation of al-kalama, al-tayyibah, istighfar, begging for entry into Jannah, and seeking refuge from Jahannam. Therefore, any spare time available should be spent on these. What is so difficult about keeping the tongue busy? The recitation of Salah. Adan Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or La ilaha illallah, while engaged in our daily tasks. In the same hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said a few more things. Ramadan is the month of patience, hence, even if great difficulty is experienced in fasting, one should hear it cheerfully, with patience. One should not complain, as people often do during the hot summer days. Similarly, if suhoor is missed, one should not complain. Should we feel tired at the time of Taraweeh, this too should be borne with patience. Do not consider it a great hardship or trial. Otherwise, these performances may lose credit with Allah. When we turn our back on worldly comforts, forsake our eating and drinking for the sake of livelihood, then to seek Allah's pleasure, we should not mind our difficulties. Further, the hadith states that this is the month of kindness, especially with the poor and needy. Kindness should be of a practical nature. When 10 things are placed before us for iftar, at least 3 or 4 of them should be set aside for the poor and needy. If even we cannot treat them as generously as ourselves. In showing kindness for the poor, as in all other matters, the Sahaba were living examples, and in this respect it is our duty to follow, or at least try to follow them. There are hundreds and thousands of incidents that leave us astonished. Look at the following example. Abu Jahm relates that during the battle of Yarmouk, he went in search of his cousin, taking with him a goat's skin full of water, so as to give him a drink and to wash his wounds if he were alive and wounded. He found him lying among the wounded. When I asked him whether he wanted some water, he indicated yes. At that moment, someone near him gave a cry of pain. My cousin pointed that they were indicating that I should first quench the thirst of the neighbor. I went to him and found that he too needed water, but just as I was about to give it to him, a third person gave a cry of pain near him. The second one pointed to the third, meaning that I should give the third one a drink first. I went to the third man. Before he could drink, he passed away, whereupon I returned to the second one, only to find that he too had passed away. When I returned to my cousin, he too had become a shaheed. This is the spirit of sacrifice that our forefathers possessed. May Allah be pleased with them and grant us the ability to follow in their footsteps. Ibn Umar has reported a statement of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said that there are at all times 500 chosen persons who enjoy Allah's favor, as well as 40 abdals, great mashayikh. When any one of them dies, another takes his place. The Sahaba asked about their particular virtuous deeds. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "They forgive the oppressor, show kindness to those who harm them, and, out of their love for the common man, share the provisions with the needy." In another hadith, it is stated that whosoever feeds the hungry, clothes the naked, and grants refuge to the traveler, surely Allah shall save him from the fear of the day of resurrection. Yahya al-Barmaki used to give Sufyan al-Thawri 1,000 dirhams every month, whereupon Sufyan used to prostrate himself before Allah, praying, "O Allah, Yahya has provided sufficiently for my worldly needs. You, through your great mercy, see to his necessities in the hereafter." After the death of Yahya, some people saw him in their dreams, and on inquiring what had happened to him in the court of Allah, he replied, "Through the prayers of Sufyan, I have been forgiven by Allah." Further, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned the virtue of feeding a fasting person at the time of breaking the fast. In one hadith, it is reported that the malaika, the light beings, send blessings during the nights of Ramadan upon anyone who feeds a fasting person to break the fast out of his halal earnings, the lawful. And on the night of Laylatul Qadr, Jibreel alayhi salam shakes hands with him. The sign of this is that his heart becomes soft while tears flow freely from his eyes. Hamad ibn Salama, a very famous muhaddith, used to feed 50 people each day in Ramadan. At iftar, Ruh